Hello everyone, and welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. I'm so glad you're here. If you love stories about the stars as much as I do, don't forget to subscribe and tap that like button. Now settle in, because tonight we're pulling back the curtain on a romance that had the entire fandom whispering for months. People kept asking what truly happened between Ebru Şahin and Akınözü. They were once the pair whose spark on set seemed to slip effortlessly into real life, a chemistry that didn't need explanations. And then, all at once, silence. Headlines murmured about arguments, bruised feelings, clashing visions, pride too stubborn to bend. Everyone had a theory. But what no one realized was that Ebru, beneath that calm smile and poised presence, never actually surrendered. She didn't scheme to embarrass or retaliate. She mapped out a quiet path to remind Akın of the love they had built together, and to invite his heart back home. After they broke apart, Ebru refused to fan the flames. No tell-all interviews. No quick notes to swat down rumors. She chose not to bite and not to bark. She simply stepped back. In an industry where everybody shouts, where every disagreement becomes a performance and every tear a thumbnail, she chose silence, because she understood that quiet can be louder than any speech when it carries conviction. She waited. She threw her energy into her craft, slipped back into stage rehearsals and workshops, tinkered with new scripts, pushed herself in training, and let each public appearance unfold with an almost effortless grace. Nothing about it felt forced, but none of it was random. Every look, every set of photos, every walk down a red carpet whispered the same message: remember what we built, remember what you miss, remember what felt like home. And then came the night that changed everything. Istanbul, a charity gala, the kind of event where cameras glitter and promises of hope float between glasses, the kind of gathering where the city's pulse feels like it lives just beneath your skin. Both Ebru and Akın were invited. Was their meeting a twist of fate? People love to say so. But for Ebru, chance had a calendar. She knew which events to skip and which rooms were worth entering. She understood when a doorway becomes a stage. She arrived in a white dress that looked like it had been made from a soft vow, an elegance you couldn't quite pin down but couldn't look away from either. The moment they caught each other's eyes, something ancient and familiar resurfaced. That look, the one only they knew how to exchange, made time stumble. Akın froze for a heartbeat. You could almost feel the air around them remember their story. After that gala, people close to Akın said he changed. He wasn't distant, but he wasn't distracted either. He had that quiet around him, the kind that shows up when your heart is talking, when the past keeps tapping your shoulder and asking to be heard. He got thoughtful. He drifted, not to other worlds, but back into scenes and songs and the small private moments you can never stage for an audience. Meanwhile, Ebru stayed steady with her plan. Subtle notes began to appear on her socials, nothing that shouted names or dates, just a melody here, a lyric there, a throwback to the first soundtrack they bonded over when the trailer lights were hot and nerves were raw. She posted a line from an old script they both loved, a quote that felt like a hand squeeze in the dark. She shared photographs saturated in memory, sunlight slanting across a balcony that looked suspiciously like the one where they used to run lines when everyone else had gone home. Sometimes a familiar scent would linger in the right hallway at the right time, the perfume he associated with early mornings on set and laughter in the makeup chair. And once, as if by accident, a small keepsake from the day they first worked together seemed to surface, a reminder carried like a secret. None of it was a trap. None of it tried to push him toward the safety of nostalgia or the comfort of routine. She wasn't asking him to come back because it would be easy. She was inviting him to return because it would be true. What she was doing wasn't manipulation. It was a gentle unveiling of how real their love had been, a mirror tilted so he could see, clearly and without shame, that the light still existed. Weeks later, destiny, or maybe just the elegant stubbornness of two careers refusing to fall out of orbit, brought them to the same set. A new film. New costumes. But the echo of the old rhythm arrived before the call sheet did. They were cast for the same project, and when they stood across from each other, the old telepathy flickered to life. The corridor between them grew charged. The way they moved around each other looked like choreography nobody taught and everyone felt. Crew members who had never met them before could sense it in the pauses, in the way silence seemed to glow rather than empty out. Even when the camera wasn't rolling, they found themselves speaking in glances the way only people with a shared language can. It wasn't acting anymore, and that's what stunned them both. They didn't sprint. That was crucial. No dramatic declarations to distract from the delicate work that had to be done. They let it unfold. First at group gatherings after long shooting days, where laughter came easily and nothing had to be defined. Then, quietly, dinners without the ring of colleagues or the beat of nightlife. No performance for the crowd, just the brush of conversation and the rediscovery of what used to make an ordinary hour feel like a celebration. And then came the night when Akın appeared at her door with no cameras trailing, no handlers lurking, no script to authorize the words. He didn't arrive to negotiate the past or to bargain with the future. He simply arrived to choose her. Ebru's plan had worked not because it was clever, but because it was honest. She kept believing when even she had exhausted every reason to keep believing. And that kind of belief has a gravity nothing else can imitate. Lately, the way they show up together says more than any press release could. The easy smiles. The lingering glances. That gentle warmth that pools between them like shared sunlight. This isn't just a reunion that happened for old time's sake. This is the re-beginning of a love that refused to evaporate. Ebru didn't win with tearful speeches or dramatic scenes. She won with patience, restraint, and a silence filled with faith. She reminded all of us of something simple we keep forgetting: sometimes love doesn't need to be noisy to be strong. Sometimes it just needs time, trust, and the quiet courage to wait without closing the door. They say that not long after, they found their way to the same cafe where everything had first gone soft around the edges years ago. Same corner table. Same cups warming their hands. The city hummed outside, cars threading the night, but inside there was that easy hush two people share when they don't need to impress each other anymore. They didn't dissect the past, and they didn't draw blueprints for the future. They just acknowledged the strangest, sweetest fact of all: somehow, life had led them back to the same place with lighter hearts and clearer eyes. And drinking that coffee, trading those small smiles, felt like closing a circle so they could open a new one. Later, Akın confessed to friends that the puzzle pieces clicked only when he stopped trying to force them. The coincidences weren't random. The hints weren't accidents. The memories weren't traps, they were lifelines. He understood that she didn't pull him toward her with spectacle or pressure. She reached him quietly, like music from another room that you didn't know you were listening to until you realized you'd been humming along. The plan was simple, almost disarmingly so. It showed him, not with demands but with reminders, exactly what their connection meant and what it still had the power to be. When that understanding finally settled in, he didn't feel cornered or angry. What rose in him was admiration. Because she hadn't tricked him. She had trusted them. She had trusted the story they'd written together, with all its complicated chapters, enough to believe it could keep going. That's the part everyone needs to hear. Ebru's quiet plan wasn't just about getting him back. It was a lesson in waiting, in hoping, and in holding on to a compass even when the map blurs. She proved that sometimes the most dramatic move is refusing to perform, that you can change a destiny not by shouting at it but by letting your conviction hold the door open long enough for truth to walk through. She showed that love that stays soft doesn't have to be weak, and love that stays steady doesn't have to be boring. It can be the strongest thing in the room precisely because it doesn't seek the room's approval. Now, when you see Ebru and Akın together, you can feel that they've carried their own weather into the world: calmer skies, warmer light. It's in the way they listen to each other, in the care with which they leave space for what needs to breathe, in the way a casual touch looks like a simple miracle. And yes, we know the cameras are there, the headlines will keep coming, and people will have opinions. But they no longer look like a couple trying to convince anyone of anything. They look like two people who have already convinced themselves of the only thing that matters, that their love didn't end when the noise died down, it began again exactly where the quiet started. If you've stayed with me this far, you can see why this story struck a chord. It's not just beautiful. It's brave. It takes courage to be silent in a world designed to turn every heartbeat into a broadcast. It takes strength to let time do its slow work. And it takes faith to believe that what is meant to find you will still know the way, even when you've taken a few wrong turns. Ebru believed. Akın listened. And the universe, slow and mischievous, did what it always does when two people refuse to stop hoping. For more updates on this love story as it unfolds in real time, make sure you're subscribed to Turkish Spotlight Secrets and that you've hit like so you don't miss a single moment. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep your heart open and your volume low. Sometimes the quiet parts say it all.